Thank you for tuning in to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast, where co-hosts Matt Bucher and Marty Wheeler interview motocross and off-road racing and riding icons to capture their stories and experiences for you. So buckle up those helmets, grab a handful of throttle, and get ready to listen to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is season number 2. Episode 3 of the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bucher, joined by my co-host, Marty Wheeler, and our favorite sound man, and quite frankly, our only sound man, Mr. AJ Underwood. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Again, Marty and I can't thank you enough for tuning in from all over the world. Today, we're honored to be joined on Zoom by a motocross and supercross legend and an AMA Hall of Famer, born and raised right over the line in Michigan. Our legendary guest was pro motocross and supercross champion in 1989, 1990, and 92 on a factory team Honda. He was also on the winning Motocross Des Nations team in 1989, 90, and 91. Without further ado, we want to welcome Mr. Jeff Stanton to the Toledo Track and Trail Podcast. Jeff, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on this podcast with you, and somewhat local. Like you said, just heck, I'm only 25 miles from the Ohio line, the bottom part of the state. So, yeah, it's all good. It's all close. It's all fun.
Great. Well,
I'm excited. I took a shower.
Good.
I shaved.
Okay.
Trimmed my mustache.
You did trim your
before
mustache.
Saturday. So I'm excited. It was just really excited to have him on. So.
That's great. I
don't usually do that until Saturday night.
You smell a lot better, Mark. I appreciate that. So I want to start tonight with a story. And the story is, from when I was a little guy. So it was 1993, Pontiac Supercross. Don't ask me what day it was. I think it was Saturday, so that would have been day 1. But there was, right before opening ceremonies, there was this beautiful red Honda parked up on the top of the uphill that went into the grandstands, and blue background, yellow number 1. And all of a sudden, Jeff, you walked out. I don't even know where you came from. I'm 11 years old at this time. Sorry to date you and Marty. But you come out of the stands or something and fire that bike up, do the hot lap. The bike sounds typical 252 strokes. I'm a 2-stroke guy myself. Sounds awesome. Crowd is going nuts. And I think you were the only one on the track, if I remember right. That was my first Supercross that I ever watched live. And I remember it like it was yesterday. You were instantly my hero. Instantly, just by that one lap. The race didn't even start yet. Of course, I knew who you were, knew all your competitors, but just watching that opening ceremonies and the flag and the national anthem, I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. It was awesome. That to see the lights shining down on that Honda, man, that was an awesome experience. So I want to thank you for being my childhood hero. And when I was a kid, growing up watching Supercross.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a great place to race. How it went up and did that horseshoe in the stands and came back down. Pontiac was never the best for me. I kind of always struggled there. I never won, second a couple of times, crashed out a couple of times, but it was always a fun place to ride. All the local people, and so it's funny you talk about that. I just did a podcast yesterday in the UK. And they said, "Who was your hero when you were young?" And I have the similar story, just like you just told, being at the Pontiac Silverdome, but it was with Bob Hanna. I was later in my amateur career, so I was starting to watch professional racing, and we went to the Silverdome and watched Bob Hanna just annihilate everybody both nights. And so he was kind of my hero at that time, And so he was at that time on a Yamaha, hadn't switched to Honda yet. So it's funny how as kids we hook onto a hero and kind of have them there forever.
Yeah, and it was just, and I ended up getting a '93 CR80. And I remember that, it was the Honda, you got the white Honda, on the seat, and the Dunlop white seat.
Oh yeah.
Fouled up, just like in the blue background, the yellow. That was like, like you I will never forget those bikes. Of course, you guys on Honda, you won, forever in a row there. So you had all of them beautiful number 1 plates for years in a row. But no, that was great memories. And then later in life, we went up with buddies and stayed in a hotel, went and watched. I raced it one time as an amateur, and quickly learned I have no business on a Supercross track. I should just stick in the woods, and consequently did. But what was kind of starting off? You live on a farm in Michigan. You kind of stick close to home. Is that right? Kind of where you grew up from?
Absolutely. I'm just half a mile from where the farm is, where I was born and raised. And my wife and I had been together since we were freshmen in high school, and we were only 2 miles apart. And so both our families are home. We're close to home. Been all over the world, but come right back to Sherwood. It's home's home, and there's always lots of activities on the farm and always stuff to do. So wouldn't change that for anything. Absolutely. And then that's how we started. When I started racing, my mom raced, my brother raced, myself, Dad worked on all the bikes, and we did it as a family. Racing it. Have you ever been to Log Road, just 10 miles south of me here? We still race there every third weekend. My son and I take our vintage bikes over there and race. So started out in early 70s racing at Log Road, and here umpteen years later, we're still racing there. So yeah, home's home. We love it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Log Road, and I know you got a question going, Marty. But actually, Mr. Bierbauer was our very first guest on a podcast. So he's
cool.
He's a really good guy and a good friend of us. And Marty
Jeff,
as well.
Jeff, he came out, and I've got the little track over by the airport here in Toledo, and so my family we decided to move out of the backyard and move somewhere else where I didn't have to have all the people showing up my back of the house to ride. So we moved over there, and Jeff came, Jeff came out too, and he came out and we chatted. I was chatting actually over the championship one day and said, hey, if you get a chance, you come over and look at what we're doing and seeing if we're going to survive or not. And he came out and he walked the track and told us what changes to make and what to do and stuff. So he's really helped us a lot, just putting the track together over there. But I was going to ask you, you're talking about the farm. So you're still driving that old Ford around?
I am. Yep. Still drive the old Ford around. And, we've got a collection of antique tractors and big tractors. Yeah, it's busy on the farm. My brother technically runs the farm. They're farming about 4,000 acres, couple of thousand acres of vegetables, and the rest, cash crops. So it's super busy on the farm.
Great. What's your, just because I married into a farm family myself, and I used to have a John Deere B, a 51. I actually won at a raffle. But what's, just out of curiosity, I know this is a motorcycle podcast, but what dirt bike podcast? But what's your favorite tractor on the farm?
Gosh, you know what? We've got, my dad and myself and my brother have collected antique tractors, John Deere stuff. So we've just got a pile of John Deere's. There's 20 of them over there in the barn. But hey, now you can't beat a modern tractor. It's like having an antique car or driving a new Ford F-250. Them new John Deere's with tracks, and they're amazing. So, fortunately, we live a half mile from a John Deere dealership, so everything we have is John Deere, just because of the convenience of the dealership being a half a mile from us.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Marty.
There's nothing better than jumping in that John Deere with a cab and going out there and tilling up the track and stuff, the air conditioner going or the heater or whatever. And everybody was looking at me pretty crazy. I make them run the dozer that's no heat, no cab, no nothing. I'm in the tractor, so.
And the dozer's all notchy, click, 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 and that John Deere's all comfort.
Yeah, well, the dozer's an old John Deere too. So, no, that was my first job was John Deere. So I've been trying to stay pretty close to John Deere too. So,
there you go. Cool.
Nothing runs like a Deere, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Honda's probably right up there as well. So kind of, you mentioned mom racing, and we have a copy of the article. I think you were interviewed this summer by Motocross Action magazine. I was kind of just doing some, thank goodness for Google and Wikipedia. Although AJ, you said you can't use Wikipedia. He's kind of on the fence about that. But
oh, really?
yeah, it got me through high school, so I'm going to use it. But anyway, so mom raced. You mentioned mom race, and the article did too. Please elaborate a little bit more about mom racing, because that you don't hear that very much.
Maybe we can have her on next.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Well, listen, Michigan, as you know, in the late 70s and 80s, Michigan was the hotbed of motocross. I mean, Keith Bowen, Eddie Warren, the Bigelow brothers. I mean, it was the place to be. And, if I say Lisa Aikens, I mean, the multi-times women's champion. So women, they've had the class. I mean, women's racing is huge now, but it was in the 70s. It was big as well. So, yeah. So my mom raced. She won the. I'd have to ask her exactly what year it was. She won the women's state title here in Michigan 1 year, and so until she unfortunately blew them knees out, she was done. But it started as a family hobby, riding in northern Michigan in the woods. We've got a house up by Baldwin, and if you're familiar with that area up there, just trail systems galore. So snowmobiling, motorcycling, it was always a family get together and family sport, and that's how it started. And I wouldn't change it for anything. It was awesome.
Well, certainly sounds like your parents had a huge influence on you as a kid, and we hear that a lot. Marty with operating the MX Express, the motocross track, and as a club we see that as well. But it sounds like your parents were right there with you along the beginning, and when you really start to come on, getting out of the amateurs, getting in the pros. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, I was. My dad will tell you to this day, one of the hardest things he ever done is you do it as a family sport, whether it's going to Loretta Lynn's or Ponca City. You have your MX family that you always travel with, and you were around them every weekend. And my dad will tell you the hardest thing he ever did is when it was time for me to go race professionally. He just let me go. He says, "Hey, there's people that know what they're doing a lot better than I do, and they're going to get you to that next level." And he'll tell you it was the hardest thing he did, but he will also tell you it was the best thing he ever did. Because I see so many parents now in today's world, they're still clinging on and still there. And the kids are looking to them for answers when they should be looking to the team managers and the advisors that are around them. And so it's changed a lot. It's a whole different world than it used to be. Not necessarily all for the better, but it is what it is. And I get it. These parents in today's world have to really dedicate their life and spend, mortgage themselves to the tilt to get their kids to that level. I get it, but there's people out there better than those moms and dads that will take care of them. And I mean, who better than a Roger DeCoster, to take over your parenting job and get you to that next level. Look what he did with Ryan Dungey. He took Ryan Dungey out of the amateur ranks and groomed him and shaped him, and dude, one of the best ever. So yeah, so without parents, we would never be where we were at. But there's a point in time when the parent has to separate from the child and let the professionals around them do their job.
Absolutely. And Jeff, I kind of get the sense that you're not a fan of everybody gets a ribbon type of culture. Is that pretty accurate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to earn your position, earn your keep. And yeah, for sure.
We're sort of, that's sort of where we are with MX. We're a practice track. We do run a few races here and there once in a while, but that's one thing we've really enjoyed as a family, because that's what we do as a family is we run the track, and we've been so excited over the years. This will be year 6, I believe. And, we see a lot of young ones before they're getting to the pro side of life. So it's very family oriented. They come in, they practice, they bring the barbecuer. It's such a great family outing that we really enjoy. It's just, we get to see things. My wife, she knows every young one that comes through there, and we watch them from training wheels to to jumping and clearing all the jumps now. So it is as you said, for a family type of sport, it is fun. And like I say, I have 7 grandkids, and four adult kids now, and families, and we all pretty much still ride, and it's just a good family outing.
Absolutely. And I don't care what you do, keeping your family involved. My daughter was a hunter jumper in the horse world, and my wife and my daughter went all over the country doing that. And motorcycle racing's cheap compared to horses. I can tell you that for sure. I've been there, done that. But no, I don't need any more. But the amount,
I had to give you some.
No. The money that we spent there was all worth it, because the responsibility and the work ethic, and just being out of trouble and keeping your kids busy. I don't care if it's a horse jumping championship or BMX. If you follow Chad Reed, I love what Chad Reed's doing with his kids right now. They're racing BMX 3 nights a week, going to all the national championships. That kind of stuff's priceless. He's building that bond with their kids, and keeping them out of trouble and off the streets and off the computer. And so, yeah, that's whether it's motocross or whatever it is, spending those times with your kids at that young age and keeping their mind occupied, that's the most important part.
Well, for many years, you were going to Red Bud over the 4th of July weekend. My kids and my family were putting hay in for the horses. So that was our great 4th of July week deal. So, but
well, certainly, that family connection, you can't, and you got adult children. I've got 2 young boys. I mean, they grow up so fast. My youngest is going to be 7 in 2 days, and it just seems like he was born yesterday, and I'm trying to get them into the sport as well, as best I can. But I'm not, I'm not pushing them that hard. I want the sport to come to them, and I want them to love it, and they really seem to love it. They talk about, doing whips and all this kind of stuff, which I have no idea what that really even means. But I'm like, okay, boys, whatever you think in your mind.
Sounds like broken arms.
Yes. They love YouTube, watching old videos and some of these younger kids doing things. But kind of jumping into kind of when you were in your heyday, racing professional, into now, what's been the biggest change besides the motorcycles, obviously, but what is it the mindset? Is it a me only thing kind of mindset, or what's been a big radical change that you've seen?
Well, obviously the bikes, like you said, is the biggest change. Guys still train as hard as we did back in the day. Social media has been a huge change. I mean, dude, you don't even have to watch the race. You can just watch social media and check everything out. But I was just talking about this on the podcast yesterday. There's no way in holy hell that I could do what those guys do now. Like, I had to do everything by myself. I trained by myself. I rode by myself. And now, I mean, all these guys, they ride together. Half of them ride together 4 days a week and then go race on the weekends. There's no way I could do that. I don't know how all those factory Husky guys and KTM guys and now Gas guys all ride at one or 2 training facilities and ride together every day and then go bicycling every day. The sport's changed a bunch, but that's one thing that I brought up yesterday. There's no way I could have ever done that. I couldn't hang out with Jean-Michel Bale 4 days a week and train and ride and then have to race him on the weekend. It'd drive me insane.
I love it, because first I didn't know where you were going with that, and then it flipped. It's the competitive nature. Yeah. It's the competitive nature.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you're training with all your teammates and you're riding, you want to beat your teammates. I mean, right? I mean, you're not going to give them any secrets, right?
Absolutely. And how do you do that when you're riding with them 4 days a week?
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot. yeah, it's changed a lot. It's nothing like it used to be, and it's all good. Hey, the racing's great. The reviews are great. As we know, the industry in itself has been on the downside for a couple of years. You can't buy a bike now or a used bike just because of the situation that we're in. Side by sides, four wheelers. What a great year for championship. They've sold out everything.
Yeah.
But I see Deegan on his podcast was complaining about it yesterday, and I don't respond to too many people, and I didn't respond to him, but it's like, gosh, they've sold everything out, all side by sides, four wheelers, everything. Well, why isn't that money coming back to the riders? Well, this is the reason why they sold all them out. Okay. They had 3 or 4 lackluster years, so they didn't make as many units. Okay. So yes, last year they sold out all the units, but maybe they only sold 200,000 units in the United States, where 10 years ago they were selling 500,000 units. Okay. So maybe they should make more in the next couple of years to see if they can sell more. Who knows? But that's my rant. You got to understand the whole picture that, yeah, they sold everything out, but they didn't produce as many for a couple of years because they was years where they didn't sell as many. So you have to look at the whole picture and understand the whole thing. But it's fun to watch the racing.
It's simple.
Go ahead.
Simple supply and demand, right? I mean, it's
absolutely
yeah.
That makes the world go around. And they were supplying more than the demand was, 3, 4, 5 years ago, and then now this year with COVID and stimulus money, everybody went out and bought and spent it, which is good.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, I just sold 2 used bikes in 20 minutes. I put them on Marketplace. They were gone.
Yeah. Listen. I had a
upgrade. I'm looking to upgrade here shortly, so it's been great to just put them on there and they go like nothing. But so good for us anyway. Back to you. We were talking about the changes, and how about the track side of life? What have you seen in the track, good, bad, whatever, on how the tracks are when you were competing to what you see today?
Well, they had to change the tracks a little bit to adapt the style of the 4-stroke. When the 4-strokes first came around, everybody was on them. They opened up the tracks a little more, made them a little wider. They groom them a little too much for me now. I want to go back to what they do in Europe, man. I start off with a fresh track practice and just leave it. Let the ruts stay as ruddy and deep as they are. Don't, if you got to do the first turn, okay, but leave it alone. Let it get rough and gnarly. And for the outdoors, the main man will shine, So
I want you to repeat that again so the riders that come to MX Express can hear this. Because as soon as I get a rut or so, it's like, oh, are you going to groom it? And we leave her go. And then usually, well, Jeff Walker,
yep.
They come over. They usually come. We open on Tuesday night, so Tuesday afternoon, the evening. So Jeff might come out and run a fresh track for an hour or two, but he comes Wednesday. He waits till Wednesday, and he comes back over and spends the afternoon at the track on Wednesday when it's tore to pieces. So
right,
yeah, we rip deep, and we rip her deep. We leave her, some heavy ruts in that thing. So
absolutely, and for the Supercross guys now, I mean, I worked with Justin Barsha for 3 years there, and Dad would prep the track every night. I'm like, dude, let that track go. Let it go for 3 or 4 days. I mean, having a fresh prep track every day, it's like being on fresh asphalt every day. Let the ruts get developed. I mean, you have to practice like it's lap 18 of the 20 lap main, some kickers on the jumps and all the ruddy turns. And so, I get many laps as I do, you want to keep them safe, but you got to know how your bike's going to react in those situations on a ruddy, deep ruddy turn and kicker bumps and kicker jumps. You got to know how to set your bike up. You got to know how to react in them situations. And so, yeah, a little too much fluffing and buffing in today's world.
Well, that's what we had that problem a little bit this year with Delta. Of course, Delta's been a hard track for years. It's been basically you know. So we came over and brought, we actually ran it for 4 months. And so we brought a little MX Express to it. And I thought the guys were going to keel over Dad, because all of a sudden we went from paved roads to start ripping it deep and making the corners deep to rutting up and stuff. And the same thing as we told them, we've got these little guys that have been riding the big track with us, which we got some pretty low, medium, sandy, track, and they were running ruts. These little guys are in their PW50s and stuff, and they're barely getting through some of the ruts. But then they go over to Delta on the hard pack, and these kids are flying. They're out there down. And we kept telling them, say, well, you learn to ride, in the different situations, and you end up, being able to handle pretty much anything. But so, the jump's bigger, more technical. How about that? What have you seen over the years on that style, the track design?
No, I would say it's less technical. That for Supercross, it's less technical than it was. If you go back and watch a 1990 or 1991, 92, when John Savitsky was building the Supercross tracks versus now, it was way more technical back then. They kind of mellowed out the Supercross tracks a little bit to fit them 450s, because, dude, they're just so powerful. I mean, just throttle control, and you can jump anything on them things. I mean, the sky is the limit. So they've had to tune the Supercross tracks a little bit for those bikes. I was talking about the Supercross tracks. Make them gnarly. Let them adapt. We can't make the tracks mellower, because the guys are still going to go faster. Roughen them up and slow the guys down a little bit.
I was obviously having you on is it really, Marty and I have kind of pinched ourselves a couple times, and actually we're going to retire after tonight.
That's right.
So you're going to be our last ever episode. No, I was telling AJ and Marty before you came on, the coolest part about having you on is looking back at, I spent a lot of time on YouTube and watched those. I was talking about Southwick 93, the battle you and Kudrowski had, the Daytonas. Oh my gosh, those early 90 Daytonas that you were racing on were just gnarly tracks. I mean, the whoops there was no flow. To me, it didn't look like there was any flow. Yeah. You weren't just skimming across. You had uneven moguls, and I mean, it just looked gnarly. Yeah. Absolutely gnarly.
That's what I say. Go back and watch those videos in them early 90s to mid 90s. Look at those tracks and look at them now. So yeah, make them rough and gnarly. Somebody just asked me yesterday on the podcast, what were your favorite races? Well, I won Southwick like 4 years in a row, and I won Daytona 4 years in a row. So obviously those are one of my two favorite races. The rougher, the gnarlier. I shined at that. I was a big farm guy, worked out, didn't have as much talent as everybody else, but I made up for it in hard work. And so when it come to those rough, gnarly races, I always excelled.
Yeah, and you have to be in an absolutely great physical condition, and you're well known for that. What are you looking back? What did you think you did different Monday through Friday as opposed to one of your competitors?
Well, my weekly work schedule, I worked out every day. I rode solid 3 days a week, but I had to do that mentally to where when I was on that starting line on Saturday, I knew I was prepared. Okay, if I didn't train 1 or 2 days, I get on that start line, and then that Pac-Man's in the back of my head. Oh, well, all you did is sit around and eat hot fudge sundaes on Wednesday. You're not going to be ready, But if I did my homework and busted my butt, I knew that when I was on that starting line, I could look both ways, and I knew I had everybody covered. I just I put in my time, did my work, and mentally I knew I was strong and ready.
Well, that was because you're also a farm boy. So that's a whole different mentality than a lot of the local kids or a lot of the kids now. That's all they do is they don't really have, I don't want to say hard work. I believe, becoming a pro is hard work, but there's hard work being, out there on the farm and working and seeing what really stuff is and knowing you got to get the job done. You got only so much daylight and you got to get her done. So that's, we always said, I was talking to a CEO one time, and they were talking about, the employees that they were having. And I said, you take a look at any of these Midwestern farm boys, or girls, and they're your workers. They got a job to do. They just do it. There's not, because they've got a whole ton more to do before breakfast. So it's a different mentality too. I think of how you've grown up versus what the new kids are coming up.
Absolutely. I got a couple of kids that I worked with this summer, some decent amateur kids, and we would go to one of the local tracks that are open on a Wednesday. And, I got my kids on the watch, and lap time in every lap they do. And they're out there for a solid 30 minutes, and some of the local pros show up, and they'll go out there, just haul the mail for 2 or 3 laps, pull in, sit down under the shade for a half hour, drink their Gatorade, and, pretend that they're the bomb. And so I sit back and tell myself, you really think that you're going to make it to that next level by going out and burning 3, 4, maybe 5 laps, 15 minutes worth? They just don't get it. They don't get sometimes what it takes and the determination that it takes.
Looking back, Jeff, if you had, I know you mentioned a couple of the races that were your favorites, Daytona and Southwick, you said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What, if you had one race or one event, it could have been in a practice, if you had one time in your life where you were like, I cannot possibly be beat. Nobody in the world can beat me today. Is there one event or race that you can check that box?
Yeah, and those were a couple of those Daytona wins. We stayed back all week. We would go Atlanta, Gainesville, Daytona, stay back after Daytona, ride the Outdoor National. And so I spent 2 weeks with my mechanic on the road. And so we rode, we had the bikes dialed in. After Gainesville, we would stay down there, ride a Sandy Supercross track, had the bike dialed in, had myself dialed in. And so I knew that 1990, 91, 92, that nobody was going to outlast me, and nobody was going to touch me. So I would say 100% those ones I was super confident at. And you like to be confident in everyone, but it always doesn't work out that way.
Well, things happened. I think it was one of the Daytonas that I was watching.
Yeah.
Had a mechanical issue right before the start, wasn't it?
Yep. That would have been my 5th one in a row. Go out and do a parade lap, jump the triple, and my bike collapses. I'm like, oh, dude, the shock just broke. And so I cut the track, go right back to the starting gate, and look down, and my linkage bolt had broke. Titanium linkage bolt had broke. And so we're sitting on the starting line, and they hold it for like 3 minutes. They're trying to beat the old one out and beat a new one in. And so they put up the 30-second card, and they're still beating on it. And so they get it together with like 5 seconds to go. Get on, and go. And my adrenaline. So I jumped on the thing, pulled the whole shot, came up to the triple. I'm like, is this thing fixed or is it not fixed? I don't know if it is or it isn't, So mentally at that point, you're done. It's over. It's done. And so, things were...
They put a 2x4 in the shock. How I was just going to ask you, because as you're telling a story, what was your heart rate like?
It's through the roof, and your adrenaline, and that just takes over.
Yeah. What your trophy, Motocross Des Nations experience? Because I do want to kind of peel that back a little bit compared to today. I read that article, and it was a very well done article in Motocross Action, and I think our mentality is kind of the same as yours, as far as kind of, maybe we should kind of go back to the way things used to be done, but Motocross Des Nations, do you have a favorite memory of them?
Absolutely. Again, talked about it yesterday. I did a podcast in the UK, and my first Motocross Des Nations was in Geldorf, Germany. And so going back to talking about one of my childhood heroes, David Thorpe was always a hero. When I started racing early in my professional career, you're watching what's going on in Europe, and David Thorpe was the god. He was from the UK and just a multi-time 500 national championship, winner. And so we showed up at Germany, and I was like, super scared to race David Thorpe because he's a multi-time 500 champion, And so that Motocross Des Nations to me was super special. I was on a 250, Wardy was on a 500, Kudrowski's on a 125. And back in the day, they had 80 guys on the track at one time. So they lined the 500s in the first row, the 250s in the second row. And so I'm behind Wardy and in the first race, and I just timed everything perfect. 80 guys, I came out in fourth place, passed David Thorpe, pulled away from everybody, just walked away, just dominated that whole weekend. And so Motocross Des Nations was special because I went 1-1 on all of them. I won the overalls on all of them, but it was really special for that one because the track was super hard, asphalt hard, and I was not a hard pack track rider. Being from Michigan in the Midwest, I like loamy soft tracks, but I just killed it that weekend. I rode great, beat David Thorpe, which was one of my childhood heroes, my idol. That was his last professional race ever, and so that one really sticks out in my head for all of those reasons.
Did you retire him, Jeff?
Yeah,
is that what happened? Did you retire? You retired his hero,
yeah,
Marty.
Jeff won. I'm done.
Yeah. No, but it's just cool how some of them scenarios play out,
Yeah, that's really awesome. Well, thanks for all you did for that because, on a very much smaller scale, I've been blessed to race 2 6-days, and I got both those skunk helmets in my trophy case, and that I unfortunately I DNF'd them. I had mechanical issues in Poland and Chile, but those are my proudest moments because I made the team. And I was on silver medal, both of them. Again, much, amateur level, but to be able to say I represented my country is just something that'll go down with me forever. I mean, absolutely forever. So.
Oh, absolutely. And our new generation doesn't take that Motocross Des Nations thing as serious as it used to. It kind of drives me a little bit back crazy, but it is what it is. I raced all year to earn my spot for that Motocross Des Nations. That's the Olympics. I wanted to go there, and I didn't want to be the one to lose that. I mean, when I was on those teams, U.S. hadn't lost in 20 years, and I didn't want to be the guy that was going to be on that first losing round. So I always loved it. I looked forward to it. I worked my butt off for it, and was proud to be in a part of all of them.
So I think the leading question in now is, I think I read, in the article, you made mention of the, the monster, race after that $1 million deal. So what do you think where's the drive gone, or what happened?
What happened? Yeah.
What happened to that drive? Is it because of making money the next weekend, or, that's more important?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's 100%. It's 100% money driven. 100%. They feel that they're racing too many races now, and they do that race for nothing, and they're not getting paid for it, and it's not in their contract. It's 100% money driven.
Wow, that's too bad.
That's a shame.
Of course, we were at Red Bud this year, or last race in our barn boots. So in that meth race, so it was great racing going on, but unfortunately, we didn't see any of our guys out there to do that. But apparently, apparently the new guys, the young guys coming up, they haven't raced Unadilla much, because every time I went to Unadilla, I'm a northern Pennsylvania boy, so we went to Unadilla all the time. Every time I went there, it rained, and you had to walk in 3 feet or race in 3 feet of mud. So that was our mud races back east. So
did you typical Unadilla style?
Typical Unadilla, exactly.
Did you always prefer the mud? A little bit more of a tougher condition. I know the gnarlier, the rougher, the better you got. But mud, you like riding the mud much?
I didn't mind the mud. I obviously raced in the mud here in the Midwest, in the spring, and so I was a good mud rider. I didn't hate it, didn't necessarily love it, but I didn't mind it at all. So I practiced in it and raced in it. So I was familiar with some people just despise the mud, but I don't mind it.
What kind of jumping kind of forward at the end of your motocross career? And I know in the article it mentioned that you had just been on a tear for about 4 or 5 years in a row, racing week in, week out, across the pond, and Motocross Des Nations, the Bercy race, I think the Supercrosses in the winter. So you never had a break. But did you ever because we're actually, Marty and I are actually more off-road guys at heart, but did you ever contemplate jumping off-road?
No, I never did. Listen, my son and I, we love doing hair scrambles. We got a house in northern Michigan. We love riding in the woods. But man, you talk about all those races. There was from 89 through 94, I did over 50 races a year. If you can imagine that.
Wow.
So we do the Supercross here. We do the Outdoor Nationals here. And that's when all those invitational Supercrosses were super popular. Bercy, Milan, Geneva. So my wife and I'd leave here and we'd go. I mean, quite honestly, they just paid a ridiculous amount of money. I couldn't turn it down. I mean, just as much money over there racing all them invitational races as I did racing in the States. And so you do what you got to do. So my career got shortened by 3 or 4 years because, listen, I traveled. I raced. I mean, Bercy, you raced 4 nights in a row.
Wow.
Supercross 4 nights in a row. And so, but, like I said, the payday was outstanding. And so I did what I had to do. It shortened my career, but I wouldn't change it for anything. My wife and I have been all over the world, just traveled like crazy, and just won races and just had a great time throughout Europe. We actually loved Europe.
So day 5, could you even stand up?
You were ready to get out of there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet. So I was going to ask you, you talked about riding up north on some trails. Can you ride on trails? Can you slow yourself down enough, take the competitive nature out of the trail riding and actually ride? I was, had taken actually Greg Durvage, Jim's son, and we took him out to Arizona. We were out in Arizona, rode some trails, and he liked it. He loved what we did, but it was like, it's just, there wasn't really it wasn't competitive. It wasn't 40 guys on a line going there. I mean, it was fun and exciting, but he had a real hard time riding the off-road stuff without racing.
No, I love riding in the woods. I don't necessarily think I have to slow down. I mean, I ride really good in the woods. I enjoy doing the air scrambles. And so, no, I'm not ready to slow down on anything quite yet. My brain, my back and my knees are telling me I need to slow down, but my brain hasn't. That's my problem. My brain hasn't said slow down yet. So that's the tough thing when you're in that position of being a champion, and then your body slows down and your brain hasn't. So I need my brain to slow down a little more. I spent 6 months in a cast this summer from racing at Log Road.
No.
Broke my ankle. I didn't even crash or nothing. I just twisted my ankle in front of the foot peg on a vintage bike. And so my summer was, most of the summer in a walking boot, unfortunately.
Wow.
Did you, because I kind of sticking with the off-road thing, you raced the Jack Pine, I think in 2015, wasn't it? That I read?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You did well, right? You did pretty good.
Yeah. No, I enjoy doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
So my son and I did the team when he was younger. We did the team hair scramble series, and him and my nephew won the team championship. And so my son enjoys riding in the woods. I kind of brought him up that way, and so I love riding. You just and listen, riding in the woods, you learn so many great skills that you can put on a motocross track. I always said that, even when I was racing, if I was struggling on the bike or mentally or physically, dude, I'd load up my truck. I'd go up to our place in northern Michigan and stay for 3 days, riding the trails every day, just have a blast, and then come back and be ready to race on the weekend. There's a lot that can be learned and adapted in the trail system that you can put on a motocross track.
Yeah, they don't groom them, do they? They don't groom them trails up there.
No. No.
That tree falls over, you're either going to go over it
or hit it.
Home.
Well, not to twist your arm about 2021, but a lot of guys in our club, we actually go up and do the 6 Days of Michigan, the Cycle Conservation Club of Michigan's annual trail ride. And the first year, my dad and I went and rode. It was just two of us. I think it was 2017. And then next thing you know, last year we had 15 guys in the club come up. Of course, we had to brag because Ohio had the biggest number of participants. So that was kind of cool. But if you ever get a chance to do that, that is an awesome trail ride with just people who love it. And we only do like half of it because being gone, 6 days is a little difficult from work and such. But you'd ride 100, and I think the day one of this year I rode 175 miles. That was long day, but it's a blast.
So I've done the 6 days.
Okay.
Three or four times. Back in probably 96, 97, 98, early 2000. American Honda was the title sponsor of the 6 days, and so they would send a truck up there, and I would go obviously with Honda and go up and do the whole week. I agree. It's super great time. It's a blast.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And actually, now that you mention that, I do remember Lou Schuler, who's the executive director, telling me that story as well. And and I apologize for not doing the homework because
No. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Wikipedia failed me. That was not your tip of the hat to AJ. You won that one again. But go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I can say I have a company that we do some adventure rides and stuff. So we actually had some people out in California that flew in, and we took the bikes up. Yeah, Matt and those guys took the bikes up. They flew in, brought their car in, grabbed the bikes, and they rode for the week, and we brought them home. So it was a good deal for some people that didn't want to travel across the United States to bring bikes. So unfortunately, we had a lot of things going on, so we didn't get a chance to go up. But next year, I keep saying it next year, but we're hoping to get up UP.
Yeah. So listen, you want to talk about adventure bikes for a minute?
Yes, sure. Now
So I've had this vision. So I raise white-tailed deer. I got that business, and I've got a wedding barn. We do 40 weddings a year at my stone barn, my wedding business. And so I've had this vision for 5 years, and I just couldn't get American Honda to back me on it. I've always wanted to start an adventure business in northern Michigan. Northern Michigan has beautiful adventure riding from coast to coast, from top to bottom, UP, wherever. I mean, endless 2-track, dirt track roads in all the state forest land. Just a great place to start an adventure business. And so I was hoping to have the website out, but the website's going to be out in about 10 days. Jeff Stanton has started Jeff Stanton Adventures.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Starting next May. Next May, I'm doing 3-day adventure rides for the whole month of May. And August, September, October, I'm doing 3-day and 5-day adventure rides. The 3-day adventure rides are going to be based out of Big Rapids, and we're just going to do clover leaves out of Big Rapids. The 5-day is leaving Big Rapids, going up through the UP, staying at Mackinac Island, going up to Grand Marais one night, 150 to 200 miles a day on adventure bikes.
Fantastic. Now, so adventure bikes as 1290s or 701s or
so I have got a title sponsor. Triumph Motorcycles has given me their Tiger 900s.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
So people will fly into to Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'll pick them up, take them to Big Rapids, and it's a fully catered deal. Meals, lodging, brand new Tiger 900s.
That is sweet.
3 and 5 day adventure rides. So it's just adventure riding. Honestly, guys, adventure riding is kind of where it's going. It really is. Yep. It's that 40, 50, 60-year-old man that's, got a little money, a little bit retired, used to race and wants to ride, but doesn't want to beat himself up on a track, and go ride some trails and do some adventure riding. And so that's my next adventure. So
that's fantastic. Well, maybe you'll let us sneak in with a KTM or something like that one of these days.
And listen, it'll all be on the website. I am going to allow people to bring in their bikes because I know there's a demand for that. Rob Bidas is a good buddy of mine. He said, dude, you need to take a percentage off of that, 40% off if they bring their own bike. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, we're doing that. There's going to be a super launch in about 10 days, 2 weeks. On the website, you'll see it. It'll be blown all over the internet. And so, I think it's going to be super popular. So, well, I guess we'll see. It's just been a pipe dream that I had, and really Triumph called me one day and they said, hey, I hear you want to do some adventure riding. And I'm like, yeah, I do. They're like, we're in, we'll give you all the bikes you need. We'll do whatever it takes. And so they're like, we sell 80,000 bikes in Europe. We sold 3,000 in the States. We want to double that. We're going to hire you and Ricky Carmichael to be our spokesman. And so, yeah.
That's cool. Well, so, you're going to do well because I said we sort of our Carefree Adventures is we do a lot in the winter, normally in the winter when it's not, COVID issues, but we do a lot in Arizona. So
okay.
We've tailored our bikes to 250s, 300s, 450s. A little bit smaller bikes that we can do the same thing. We're offering 2-day or 4-day rides, and lots of interest. So many people just get. They like I said, who wants to fly from California, drive all the way from California to here with their bike to ride in the UP?
Yep.
Well, some will, but like I said, it was just nice. He flew into Chicago. The last gentleman that did some stuff flew into Chicago, got a rental car, showed up at camp. There's the bike sitting there, and so they really just, you're going to do well, fantastically well. So maybe we get to come up and maybe do a podcast
on
one
sweet.
of your rides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, we do have, not to brag, I looked up our Podbean statistics. We've had some folks in Australia listen to us. So I thought that was kind of cool. I don't know why Australia, but hey,
had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
They were bored. The fires were going on over there, so they had nothing more. They couldn't go out and ride themselves. But yeah, we plan on that's this year. We're sort of tailoring back the motocross stuff a little bit for the family and adding some rides in. So one of our rides is the UP in the spring, and then we hope to go down into Royal Blue and ride probably in midsummer, and then we're looking at going out to the Paiute Trail out in Utah in fall. So doing the dual sport type thing. So what an exciting deal for you.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. Not that I need to start anything else. Quite honestly, my wife's like, well, what are you doing? But I'm bringing another businessman in on the deal, and he's really running the business side of it. I'm just going to show up, hang out, and this is the other thing. I'm doing it small. I'm doing 4 to 5 guys max. I want those 4 to 5 guys to leave going, dude, that was the best time I ever had. Right. And I'm also doing a few things different. I believe there's guys that don't want to ride for 5 days or ride for 3 days. And so I've got an a la carte website. If you want to go to Lake Michigan and go on a fishing charter one day, I'm hooked up with a fishing charter. I'm hooked up with a fly fishing charter, a hunting preserve, a pheasant preserve.
Wow.
You tell us what you want to do. We'll build your dream vacation. If you want to ride one day and then go shoot some pheasants the second day and ride the third day, let's do it. Let's build your custom vacation because nobody else does that.
Exactly.
And so I know a lot of guys that are like, fishing on Lake Michigan. Huh, yeah, we're in. Let's ride 2 days and go to Lake Michigan and go try to get into a big coho or big salmon. And so I'm set up with all that stuff. All the links will be on the website. So just trying to think outside of just motorcycles. Let's do some different things as well. And I think it'll bring a lot of people in as well.
So one thing we came up with to add the wives, find out something around there that the wives can if you get the wives on board, you can do anything.
Absolutely. In northern Michigan, Traverse City, all the wine tours and wine tasting. Again, buddy of mine, Rob Bidas, said the same thing. There's guys that don't want to leave their wives. So keep them included. So absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Well, go ahead, Marty.
So what was I gonna get? Now I'm getting old. I've already forgot what I was gonna ask him. We'll go on, and I'll come back.
Okay, we'll jump back. So before, when I, obviously we scheduled to have you on the podcast, I threw out to our club, the Toledo Trail Riders. I said, we're going to have Jeff on the podcast. If anybody has some questions, throw them out. We'll see what we can do. So speaking of adventure bikes, it reminds me, one of our guys in the club, his name's Zach Park, good guy. He's from down south. He happens to be friends with a fella, and his son, let me get it here, a Brian Spencer from Atlanta. and I
so do you know the story?
Well, I do know the story, but I want you to tell it.
Okay. So listen, I just talked to Brian last night.
Okay.
So this is Brian Spencer that I'm going to tell you about. So 1989, Atlanta Supercross was my first win ever at a Supercross. And so sitting in the truck, signing autographs for an hour after the race. And the last two people in line are a father and a son. And I can tell the son was blind. And so they come up to me, said, "Hi, my name's such and such." And my son and I go to every Supercross in Atlanta. He's blind from birth. And I sit in the stands and explain everything to him, talk to him. And we're just wanting to come up and meet you and congratulate you on your day. And dude, that touched me to this day, still touches me. I just told you, I talked to Brian last night. Yeah. So that was 1989. What are we right now? 2020. So 35 years later, Brian and I talked to each other on the phone. So Brian, his blind son, Brian, every year when I go to Atlanta Supercross, I'd meet him. We'd go to dinner. They'd come to our autograph sessions, and we just kind of bonded. They had an unbelievable bond, to lay in bed that night and to sit and think about sitting in the Atlanta Supercross, not knowing what anything looks like, not knowing the colors, not knowing what a track looks like, what a bike looks like, and have your dad explain everything to you. Dude, that's unbelievable. None of us know what that's like until you're in them shoes. And so that just touched me, and we became great friends. And still to this day, 35 years later, Brian and I talk once a month. And I did an article in Motocross Action. I don't know if you saw that or anybody saw that. They said, tell us one story that nobody knows about. And so I told that half-hour story, and they produced that in Motocross Action. And when Brian and his dad saw that article, they just called me crying. And so it's just an emotional thing that most people have no idea. Somebody touched you like that, and we were able to keep that relationship. And so just a cool race thing, a race family thing. And so, yeah, that's the story.
Well, just, and that's exactly what Zach told me, because like I said, his dad and Zach used to race enduros apparently back in the day and in season and all that stuff. And that's exactly what he told me. So you got to ask him that. And I had to up, and that, what a special memory for that young man, his dad, and you. I'm sure it humbled you that night.
Absolutely, dude. It still humbles me today. Just, I talked to Brian for an hour last night. I like to keep up with what he's doing and what's going on in his life. And, they got him a CNI dog, and he's able to get around and works every day. And just we're super fortunate for the things that we take for granted. Close your eyes for 2 days and try to function. And, this guy's done it for 40 years now.
Awesome. That's really good. I appreciate you sharing that, a very, connected and emotional story, because that's kind of the neat thing about podcasts is you kind of get to develop that kind of thing. So, couple other questions before we turn you loose. So one of our club members, his name's Kurt Adams. He actually lives in the state of Michigan. He said, ask Jeff if he remembers lapping me multiple times at a hare scramble back in 2008, 2009. And he says, LOL. He goes, but seriously, he wants to know, who was your toughest competition back in the day? Like the one guy that gave you fits?
I talked about that again yesterday, and I say there was two of them. Damon Bradshaw and I had great battles, and it's two different cycles. Damon and I could battle. He knew that I wasn't going to take him out. I knew that he wasn't going to take me out, and we could just battle and pass each other and put on some unbelievable, phenomenal races, Supercross, Motocross. So I loved racing Damon. And even to this day, we're still great buddies. I talk to him quite often. So there's two different scenarios there. It's that battle where we could just battle each other. I would never take him out. He would never take me out. I wouldn't have to look over my shoulder and see if he's coming, because he would always give me room and I would always give him room. And then there's guys that was just the opposite. There was guys that you knew you couldn't trust them. JMB, John Michelle Bale, and I had some great races. I knew I could outlast him if it was hot and rough and gnarly, and he was super talented. If the track was technical and gnarly, he would definitely beat me. But if it was Southwark or Daytona, I knew I had him covered just on the fitness end of it. So, gosh, and I talked about this yesterday. Back in the day, dude, there was 9 guys that could win a Supercross. Let's name some of these: Ron Lachine, Jeff Ward, Johnny O'Mara, Rick Johnson, myself, Bradshaw, Mickey Diamond. Dude, the list goes on and on and on. There was Guy Cooper, Mike LaRocco, Mike Kudrowski. There was guys, 20-man gate. Who's going to win? There's you.
There we go. We got you. You were saying there was, and actually Marty and AJ and I were talking about this the other night. I said back in those times, there was, literally 10 guys on the gate of Supercross and Motocross that could win. And I don't know if that number is maybe half now, maybe 4, 5 guys, in the premier class that could win. I would say honestly, 4 to 5 maybe. But like I was saying, there was an honest 8 to 10 back in the mid 90s. And it's, I was thinking about this on the way to the podcast studio, which is at Marty's here. But, I remember when I was a kid watching, and I had to set my alarm, which is just a shame to think about this. I had to set my alarm for 3 in the stinking morning, watch it on Speed World, on a Friday night. And it was like 3 weeks after the race had already been completed. You remember that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's came a long way as far as that's concerned, but yeah, that's Speed World, Moto World.
Yeah, and it was great. It was awesome racing. I mean, it was just awesome racing. And it's a shame that it wasn't as prolific as it is now. I mean, it's great now, right? But I mean, your generation kind of paved the way. But it's just, I remember that as a kid. Set my alarm for stupid hours of the night, to watch it, and of course I'd doze off and have to, stand up and watch to try to stay awake for the program. But go ahead, Marty.
I got you dated.
Okay.
So I used to watch it on Wide World of Sports on Sunday afternoons. So, my wife and I, we'd have to watch, Wide World of Sports to watch the motocross racing, because we never had anything we could ever, no other special channels.
Right. So
it's tune the antenna in, get it in the right direction, get Wide World of Sports on Sunday. So
I got one more from, actually it's from Kevin Campbell. He's our club treasurer. Nice young guy. He's actually former motocrosser, and now he's kind of coming to the off-road a little bit, and good guy, keeps track of our club money. And he said, this is going to put you on the spot, Jeff. Would you come down to Northwest Ohio and race our hare scramble, the Fallen Timbers Classic 4, on September 12th, 2021? And this part I didn't get clarification from, but it says Kevin is offering free food and free entry. And I don't know if that's on the club's dime, or is that we're going to just assume that that's Kevin's dime, because I don't think the club can do that. But anyway, I was just on a Zoom call with the District 14 folks this weekend, and we got our date for our hare scramble next September 12th down here in Ohio. So, I know you got your adventure thing going. I'm sure you got a million things, but Kevin wants to know, you going to come down and race it, Jeff, or could you?
I will have to look at the schedule. So I've got my calendar laid out for this adventure thing. So what I'm doing is I'm doing week on, week off, August, September, October. And if you're lucky enough to be on that weekend off, absolutely.
Well, we're the Labor Day week, basically. So what we get to do is 2 days of dirt.
Yep.
So we have been running a special race of sorts at MX Express, but 2 years ago, we actually got invited to do the fair race at the Fulton County Fair. So we build a track for a Wednesday night race on Wednesday, and then on Saturday, Sunday, we ended up over at Heinz Farm.
Yeah, we get the hare scramble.
So
it's kind of
you got a couple of you got some motocross, then you got some off road. So it's a great weekend for that anyway. But that's been a great deal.
Yeah, this year changed a little bit because of the COVID, but
yeah,
we were at one point, we totaled up. We had 500, maybe 600 racers, come into Northwest Ohio within a 4 or 5 day period of time. So that was really kind of a cool thing we had going pre-COVID.
Right.
But anyway.
But yeah, we you talked about running the team hare scrambles. My boys and my son-in-law have done. They did it. They've been doing the team for the last couple of years. Not this last year, but the year before they ran 2 Altas. So we ran the Alta.
No kidding. That's awesome.
It was it was fun. It was just something totally different, and just it was interesting to get the logistics to get the bikes going and that kind of stuff. But it was just great. So, but yeah, we do that. I have to ask you, because Ella texted me again. I need to ask you, how many deer do you have?
I've got about 100 on the farm right now.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've got 25 adult does. That is really my breeding stock, and I artificially inseminate half of those just to keep my genetic pool going. And so I try to sell 10 to 15 shooter bucks a year to hunting preserves. It is what it is. I'm raising them. Yes, their life is going to end at some point. It is what it is. And so those 25 adult females, my breeding stock, will give me 50 fawns, May, June, July. Every one of them has 2. Some of them have 3. I've got one old bag. She has 4 every year. And so,
she's an expert.
So yeah, she's an expert. So I'm always at that 80 to 120 mark with my deer.
Well, that was sweet, because you just answered her questions, because you want to know how many babies you had a year too. And so the other thing is, what got you into the deer?
Gosh, honestly, what got us into it is a mother got hit in the road not too far from our house, and the babies were in the ditch, and we picked them up, bottle fed them. That got us the itch. The next year I got my permit, started building fence, and got some breeding stock, and one thing led to another, and we just been going crazy with it. This is my 14th year doing it.
Wow.
That's so sweet. I told my wife, I said, get rid of these old hay burners I got out back here and put some fence up and put some deer in, but she don't want to get rid of the horses. So we keep,
absolutely.
Somehow they go away a little bit after they get 30 years old, but then somehow we get another one. So I'm not sure how that works, but talking about businesses. So you've got the deer, but I've also seen some really cool pictures of a barn.
Yeah. So, gosh, I just, another vision I had, I told my wife, I said, I want to start a wedding venue at one of our barns. She's like, what? Are you crazy? And so she's a PA. She's in the medical field. It's good. I lost you for a minute.
Yep.
She's a PA. She's in the medical field. She's like, no, we don't need to start a wedding venue. And so I'm like, I'm doing it. And so took a winter, done up this barn, added on a big addition for a bridal suite and bathrooms and kitchen. And so it just took off like crazy. Like I said, we'll do 35, 40 weddings a year, another 20 graduation parties, events. And so I got a lady that runs it and deals with it. We're there most every weekend. As a business owner, you want to make sure you're around and things are going smooth. But it's been a fun project. Listen, other than this year with COVID and having to cancel a bunch and dealing with all that stuff, it's been super fun project.
Well, it looks fantastic. You know, I see every once in a while you'll throw some pictures out there and stuff, and it just looks fantastic. And, you know, of course, it's a setting you have too. You know, we're down here, it's flat. So, you know, it doesn't really beautiful views, but in great settings. But yeah, it's a great setting.
What's the name of it? Throw it out there, Jeff, if you don't mind.
It's the Old Stone Barn. So it's a stone barn that I restored, and it's called the Old Stone Barn. You can look it up on Facebook or on the internet. The Old Stone Barn wedding venue. And so, yeah, we do, like I say, weddings, Christmas parties, birthday parties, graduations. So we do it all, but constant, you know, our main focus is weddings.
So you don't, you're not in Coldwater. So you're north of Coldwater?
I am 15 miles northwest of Coldwater, a little town called Sherwood, right smack dab in between Coldwater and Battle Creek is where we're at.
So you're not too far from Redbud either.
No, Redbud's about 40 miles straight west, and I'm literally 10 miles north of Log Road, the motocross track of Log Road there at Brunson. So yeah, I'm 9 miles from Brunson.
Beautiful part of the state. And
absolutely.
We love, my wife and I and the boys, we vacation a lot in the state of Michigan and try to ride up there as much as we can. And it's I mean, yeah, we live in Ohio, but I am a Michigan fan. Just canceled the game. Did you see that?
Yeah, my son told me tonight. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a mess.
In 100, this is not a football podcast, but we do talk about it once in a while. 103 years they played it's the first time they've canceled 103 years, but they have to do what they have to do to keep them kids safe. But no, the state of Michigan's great for trail riding and all kinds of recreational purposes. Did Ella's Marty's granddaughter, but does she have any further questions?
No, I think, Marty? Well, he was great because he went right through how many babies they had, all that kind of stuff. So he just answered every one of her questions. So I didn't have to do that. So I had to ask any more questions. So it was perfect. So
perfect.
Just, more pictures of deer you post, the better. She'll like that really well.
Awesome. And listen, you talk about vacationing in Michigan. Really, that's my idea of this whole adventure thing. I want to showcase Michigan because there's just so much beauty in Michigan, whether it's the UP and Lake Superior or Mackinac Island, the Mackinac Bridge, all the forest from the middle of the state up. Between Triumph motorcycles, showcasing Triumph motorcycles, and showcasing Michigan and the beauty that we can provide here in Michigan, I just feel this adventure thing is really going to go through the roof.
Yeah, I think it's going to take off.
Yeah, and realistically, on the east side of the country, really, there's no place to ride. Michigan's it.
Yeah.
I come from Pennsylvania. Of course, I come from the hills of Pennsylvania. So Ohio's sort of flat, so that's not the best thing. But kids are here, grandkids are here.
We are, yeah,
but,
for sure.
There's no riding in Pennsylvania. The years, in the 70s and 80s when we rode, we could ride hundreds and hundreds of miles in great land, state lands and all that kind of stuff. We're able to ride, and they shut that down. So, they're just beginning to get some side-by-side stuff out there on roads, but none of the old logging roads, none of the old fire roads, nothing like that. So, Michigan is probably on the East Coast. I was just talking to a gentleman up in the northern, the Northeast. And we were talking about the same thing. We were talking about trying to put together a group to go up there and make a trip out of that. And there's not a lot of riding. They've got everything shut down. And, so there's just, other than maybe Tennessee a little bit, Michigan's it. I mean, it's like you said. And now, the real quick, the story, I was talking to a young gentleman that's good, raised my kids, and we've had him around. He was telling me, and I'm sure you've probably been up there enough. There's a gentleman up in the UP that has found, he goes out with an ultraviolet light and there's stones that glow. Have you heard about that, Jeff?
No.
He's got a business apparently, and he's up in the middle of nowhere, and he sells these stones all over the world. but it's on the shores of Lake Superior, and they go out at nighttime with a UV light, and they find these stones that glow. So there's another stop for you on your adventure ride to, swing by. And
this guy doesn't like drink before he does that or anything, or
he's
thinking outside the box a little bit.
Because the young man that grew up with my kids has a website.
Oh wow!
And they sell them all over the world. Of course, China or something like that. They think it's some kind of healing thing, so they sell them buckets
sell
full.
them all.
I thought my wife was the only person that bought rocks or collected rocks, but apparently, so that's one of our trips. We have to go up there to see if we can find these glowing stones.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, he's got this website, and we were talking about it because I was talking about going up and doing a ride, and he goes, "Oh, you got to go up there and find this. This guy's well known for the Rock Man or something like that. They call this guy
the Rock. There you go.
But you think about the UP and Mesquite. I'm trying to think what
Munising.
No, what's the town on the east side? I used to fly in there with Northwest all the time. On the UP.
Where's Matt?
In the UP? Sault Ste. Marie.
No. It starts with M, doesn't it?
I feel like I'm on Jeopardy or something here.
Marquette.
There you go. So
that's in the middle.
That's not in the east.
I flew in there on an airplane, so I used to go up there with Northwest. I used to work for Northwest, so we used to fly in there. But what a cool little place! I mean, you're on the water. Yeah. Is that Superior, Lake Superior?
It is.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So actually, when I had to get there, I had to go in and work. But they had the motel or hotel that we stayed was outside of town a little bit. Went by the big ski area there, and but I'm driving up there, back and forth to the airport for 3 or 4 days, and there's trails just going every direction. Like, oh my God, what a place, But at that time, I was in Pennsylvania, so we never was that close to ride. But just what a great state of Michigan is.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think you're going to have a lot of success. Sounds like you've got a well thought out plan, Jeff, and we wish you all the best of luck for that. And be great to kind of go check that out and keep in touch with us about that too. Not that we have an enormous audience, but be glad to try to throw that out there too.
Let us put it on the website and stuff too. You're gonna have Tim Allen, do his commercials and and help you there too. Isn't he the spokesman for the state of Michigan?
Not for what I want to do. No, Tim Allen. It's all Jeff Stanton.
Yeah, because every time you hear, you love Michigan, you think of Tim Allen.
The pure Michigan,
Pure Michigan.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Is there any other parting thoughts before we wrap up, Jeff?
No, I just appreciate you guys having me on, and I appreciate this hour, and it's actually been fun. So, listen, normally I turn into a pumpkin at 8:00 at night. I mean, my wife and kids and I'm known for being in bed by 8:30. So you guys have stretched my limits here, broadened my horizons. So it's all good.
Well,
thank you.
We apologize for keeping you up, but well, no, we certainly appreciate you coming on with us, Jeff. And so as we wrap up, Marty and I want to thank you for tuning into Season 2. Episode 3 of the Toledo Track and Trail podcast. We once again want to thank our legendary guest, Jeff Stanton, for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and give us a like on Facebook. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, give us your feedback. You can leave the star ratings there, so please do that. If you have questions, comments, ideas, or guests you want to hear from, we want to hear from you, so send us an email at ToledoTrackandTrail@gmail.com. That's ToledoTrackandTrail@gmail.com. Until next time, we hope you and your family can get outside and enjoy the sport of motocross and off-road racing and riding. Stay on the track and trail wherever you are, and be good stewards of the sport that you love so much. On behalf of my co-host, Marty Wheeler, I'm Matt Bucher. We want to thank you again for tuning in to the Toledo Track and Trail podcast. Stay safe, everyone.